Hey, we started verses 1, 2, and 3 of Psalm 5. Psalm 3, 4, and 5 kind of go together. This is a morning psalm. David, in the early morning, lifting his heart to God, most likely still on the run from Absalom or some enemy, because it's a prayer for justice. And long before our society and our media became obsessed with justice, and by the way, don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. Man-made systems always perpetuate some form of injustice. The American justice system is the best that's ever been invented, and even it is hopelessly flawed. Jesus is the judge and the ultimate giver, executor of justice, and so our real hope for justice is in him. But this is a prayer for that justice, that God would bring justice, that God would be our avenger. And really, my friend, if you've ever been oppressed, then Jesus understands. He identifies with the feelings of our infirmities. He is your high priest if you have trusted him. And you don't need to scramble and claw your way in life looking for earthly justice. You're never going to get it, at least not to your satisfaction. But one day there's a heavenly justice. And what we need first is to be justified with God and reconciled to him and brought back to life in him. And that heals, in time, that heals the injustice of this horizontal world. And that's why David, in the middle of injustice, says, I'm going to look up. You see, he was looking the world tells us to look horizontally, demand our rights, and fight for justice. But David understood he wasn't going to get justice. He was going to get what the world gave him, but God was the source of justice. God was the one that was going to bring about his vengeance on behalf of David. So David begins this psalm. Look at verses 1 through 3. Give ear to my words, O Lord, consider my meditation. We talked about this last week, but the word meditation is sort of an inaudible groaning. It's those early thoughts. It's the deepest, innermost thoughts that you might not even be able to put words to, feelings. It kind of harkens to the New Testament idea that the Spirit makes intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. There's some prayers to God that just don't have words, and we pour out our souls before him, and the Spirit prays and intercedes for us. What a beautiful and wonderful thing. So David says, my meditation, the thoughts I can't hardly form and put words to. Hearken unto my voice. Now he's getting clarity, my cry. And then he says, for unto thee will I pray. Now he's ordered his thoughts, and he's speaking clearly to God with his own reason, okay? My King and my God, we talked about that. But in David's sense, this was a subjecting of his own authority as king to the higher authority. And it reminds us that even the king is under authority and gives account to a higher authority. Even the president, even those that are in power, even those that are perpetrating all over the world injustice, they will give account to the King of Kings. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. It also harkens to this idea that if I am in authority in any sense, that I better recognize and reckon that my authority is delegated, and I am, as a representative of Jesus, ultimately accountable to that higher authority. So no king, no authority, no leader would be oppressive or abusive who understands that his authority is under the authority, the ultimate authority of God. And then look at verse 3. My voice shalt thou hear in the morning, O Lord. In the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up. Now, verse 3 is David ordering his life in the morning before his God. I just got done reading a book this week, and I would highly recommend it. It's called Ordering Your Private World by Gordon MacDonald. I had read it many years ago. A new version has been released. Gordon MacDonald is 80, a godly man, faithful man, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful book. I'll be picking and choosing highlights of it for our sermon series on Sunday mornings, Cultivating a Healthy Soul. But Ordering Your Private World, really good book, lots of great wisdom. But this is what David is doing. He's ordering his soul, his heart before the Lord in the morning, and he's ordering his orientation. His world horizontally is fraught with despair and desperation and fear and anxiety. And so what does he do? He plants himself and he looks up. And he orients his life and his leadership and his heart and his attitudes and his decisions in line with who his God is and who he is before his God. My friend, that is, I think, the ultimate practice, the ultimate discipline of the Christian life, the ultimate practice of a healthy soul is to begin every day ordering your life before your God and giving him your heart and your focus and your orientation aimed towards him, and not going at life merely horizontally, but going vertically first so that you receive what you truly most deeply need, and then you are equipped to go at life in the horizontal way for others, blessing others, expending yourself because you've received what you need from your God. Excuse me, I breathed wrong. Let's read verses 4, 5, and 6. And we won't dive too deeply into them, but we'll park it there. For thou art not a God that hath pleasure in wickedness, neither shall evil dwell with thee. The foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. Thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing. The Lord will abhor the bloody and deceitful man. So we see he is acknowledging, really, he's barely asking for anything yet. He's acknowledging God's holiness and God's righteous reign and his right to execute justice. And what is he doing? He is, again, orienting himself. We might say, well, he's stating the obvious. Of course, God is holy and doesn't have pleasure in wickedness. Well, really? I mean, have you ever doubted that God would be truly good to you, better than you would be to yourself? Have you always trusted the purity of God's heart? I doubt always. Lots of people believe that God is malicious. They don't believe he's holy. They believe he has wicked motives, wicked intentions. Lots of people have a perverted view of God. And when life falls apart and things aren't going well, isn't that always the devil's accusation? Wouldn't the devil have been getting maybe into David's head that, hey, you've tried to do right, not perfectly, but you've tried to do right. You've been a man after or oriented towards God's heart. But why this? Why isn't God coming through? Why does he seem to be favoring your enemies? Maybe he is on their side. So David is again orienting himself. He's extolling the qualities of God to God in a way that settles and embeds and roots his own heart. It's important that we remind ourselves who our God is, and that we remind ourselves of his quality, his holiness, his justice, his love, his goodness. It's important that, especially when life is hard, that we remind ourselves our God is good. He is not a God that delights in oppression or in wickedness or in doing wrong. And so whatever's going on here is for my good. He's not just after me, he's for me, and he's with me. And that's enough for today, friends. We'll pick it up there, verses 4, 5, and 6 tomorrow, and we'll dig a little deeper. Happy Monday.